Guten Gardening, everybody. Well, we're getting later in October, and that means it's time for us here in Zone 5, Wisconsin, to get our garlic planted. In fact, I'm sure some of you have already planted over the last week or so, but today I'm going to be planting a whole bunch of new to us varieties. We've got music garlic here, a bunch of different varieties of garlic that we got from Keene Garlic, a local garlic establishment. And I got to tell you something, in case you haven't seen them, I recently got to interview the folks at Keene Garlic, and I did two jam-packed videos. One where we talked all about the different families and types of garlic and expectations, and a second video where we talked about the process of prepping your soil, prepping your garlic, planting, growing, harvesting, curing. I mean, those videos are filled with information, and so as I plant this today, keep those videos in mind. I will link them in the description of this video. Now, I'm going to be following the suggestions from those videos to a T when it comes to getting our garlic planted. I will tell you that through the magic of YouTube, it's going to look like this video doesn't take all that long to do, but I'm going to allow for a certain amount of wait time when I do my isopropyl alcohol soak and my nutrition soak. And for those of you that don't know what those two things are, I'll talk a little bit about it, but really you got to check out those other two videos because we go in depth about the purpose behind them. Well, the first thing I think I need to do is show you the different varieties of garlic I'm going to be growing this season. You're going to notice I have a couple of different containers out here. I got lots of stuff going on. It's going to be a busy couple of days, but let me show you these awesome types of garlic that I got from Keene and why I'm so excited. Well, one thing's for sure, we are expanding the amount of garlic once again that we're growing this season. I've got some Italian red. This is a hardneck, a porcelain hardneck. I've got Russian red, which we grew last season. It is a marbled purple stripe hardneck. A purple stripe. Look how beautiful that is on the exterior, on the wrappers. This one I am super excited about. I have my own personal connection to Korea, but this is Korean red. And I got Wisconsin there because we've been growing it in Wisconsin for a long time. But this is another hardneck variety. And this is my first year growing the Korean red. Ooh, look how massive these cloves are. This is our Chestnut red. And I'm going to experiment around a little bit because I've been growing Chestnut red for a couple of years. And I have some that we've been growing for the last 3 years that we originally got from Keene. And I'm going to do a little experiment to see which one grows bigger. We've got the very, very familiar music garlic. And by the way, this is the first variety of garlic that Keene Garlic grew. That's what they told us in the video. And we've got some Amish Rocambole. The Rocambole hardneck is a little bit different. But again, I'm not going to say too much about the different varieties in terms of what a Rocambole versus a porcelain. I'm not going to say too much about that because I can't do it the justice that Cindy from Keene Garlic did in that video, or those videos where we talked about the different varieties. Again, check those out. They're linked in the description. Now, I'm going to be, as I said, following the specific steps that they suggested Keene Garlic. And the first thing I need to do is go ahead and get some isopropyl alcohol, like this right here, so I can give these a sterilization bath. Now, this is just to give them the best chance at survival and survival, making sure that we get some really nice garlic. So let's go ahead and get this emptied into one of these containers. And I'm just going to pour this right into here. I just got some 70% isopropyl alcohol from the store, and that should be enough to cover our garlic as we put it in here. Now, the first garlic that I'm going to soak in here is my Chestnut red. Again, boy, if I can produce some bulbs that look like this, look at the size of these. If I can produce some bulbs that look like this coming summer, I am going to be very happy. All right, we're going to open this up. Just pull the papers back. I got to tell you, I learned something super valuable in the video. Well, I learned many valuable things in the video, but one of the first ones, you see this? I accidentally ripped the paper on this garlic. So on this clove, the wrapping came off. The wrapper came off. It doesn't matter. Wrapper on or wrapper off does not matter one bit when it comes to planting. But something else that I learned, and I'm going to show you right now, and that is the direct correlation between the size of the clove you plant and the end bulb, the resulting bulb from it. Something like this, if I take care of the soil and everything else, should produce a really nice end product in terms of the garlic. Something like this, we're going to get a lot smaller results. And so what I've done in the past, as I go ahead and put these in, is I went ahead and I planted every single one of the cloves, big or small. But the reality is that I'm not necessarily going to get as big of results if I'm planting those smaller cloves. And so therefore, you know, I'm just going to focus primarily on the larger ones. Now, if I have plenty of space, extra space, and I want to put them in the ground, that's not a problem either. But if I have limited space in particular, I'm going to, I don't know, probably just eat those smaller cloves. And then these bigger ones, these massive ones, those are the ones that I'm going to go ahead and plant. All right, it's going to take some time now because I have a limited number of containers, but I'm going to let this soak in this isopropyl alcohol for about 15 minutes. And then I'm going to move it over to a fertilizer soak. Well, what a mess those wrappers made. That's okay. I've only got 4 of the cloves that I decided not to keep or not to plant. The rest have been in here for about 15 minutes, and that's about how long I typically do this isopropyl soak. So now I'm going to transfer over to our nutrient soak. And so what I have here is a liquid biology bundle. This is actually a Purple Cow Organics product. That's something that Keene Garlic told me they like to use. So we've got 2 products here for our fertilizer soak. I will tell you that in the past, what I've typically done is to go ahead and use something like fish emulsion, so really a liquid fertilizer of any type. But we've got a liquid supercharger and liquid life, and both of these are supposed to be really good for your plants in general. Now the directions tell us to use 1 tablespoon of the supercharger, 1 tablespoon of the liquid life into 1 gallon of water. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to do the original mixing here in ye old milk jug. All right, let's get this one open. I'll give it a smell. Well, it definitely has a biological smell, but it does not compare in any way to, let me get a little bit more in there, to fish emulsion. That stuff, you know about it when you've applied fish emulsion. This is my first time using these products, but again, the folks at Keene Garlic swear by them. So who am I? They've grown millions and millions of cloves here. So much garlic. They ship out upwards of 70 to 100,000 pounds of garlic, organic garlic, etc. every year. About this, oh, this one actually, this liquid life smells a little bit nicer. Not that you need to smell your fertilizer. All right, there we go. We've got 2 tablespoons, 1 of each, and let's add the water. Give it a little shake there. All right, I've got my gallon of nutrient soak here. And I'm going to pour this up till it covers everything. I'm going to have to do a couple of different containers, otherwise this is going to take me forever. Because you can leave it in that nutrient soak up for about 24 hours. I'm not going to do that. We're starting in the morning. We come back in the afternoon. And I'm going to leave it about 6 hours. I'd like to leave it longer. I just don't have time. So I'm going to have to do a couple of different containers to make sure everything gets soaked. All right. But now I'm going to skip ahead until we've got it all ready to go, all ready to be planted. And I'm going to show you something that I'm doing in terms of planting space. Oh, one of the little ones made it in, but we're not going to be planting that. All right, there's the product. Let's let it soak. Now, one of the reasons why I haven't planted before today is because I just got the fall potatoes out of both of these beds, and I've decided this season that I'm going to plant both of these beds full of garlic, and I'm going to do the same thing with both of my long raised beds. So we're not quite doubling the amount of space, but almost doubling the amount of space that we're going to be growing in. Now here's something else I need to do while I am waiting for everything in that nutrient soak. I need to go ahead and get some fertilizer in the soil. Now we have used the garlic fertilizer in the past, and I will tell you that this is fertilizer that is specifically made for garlic. It's got lots of micronutrients that are needed, like manganese, boron, copper, zinc, etc. But it's specifically for the purposes of growing garlic. And so we're going to add this to the beds. Again, I would have liked to have added this sooner to the beds to give it some time to work in, but you know, that wasn't possible based on what I had growing in these beds. So we're just going to go ahead and add it now, and I'm going to follow the directions. And the directions say that I should, before planting in the fall, incorporate at double the application rate, which is 2 ounces per 4 square feet. So I need 4 ounces per 4 square feet. Now each of these beds are at about 18 square feet, so we'll say that that's about 5 times 4, which is about 20 ounces, just over a pound and a quarter of fertilizer. Now I don't know exactly, this is 10 pounds, just over a tenth of the bag per bed. I actually have a little scale, so I'm going to weigh it out, but you don't need to see that. I'm just going to go ahead and apply it in here and get it worked in a little bit before the planting. All right, I got my fertilizer spread. I'm going to use my gloves, my gloved hand to work it in, get everything nice and laid out. Well, folks, as the day has progressed, it has gotten windier and windier. I'm going to try to avoid the wind as much as possible as I'm recording. That's something that certainly happens in Wisconsin, or at least here where we are in Wisconsin. Behind me, I've got something to help me out with the planting. Now that my different varieties are ready to go in the ground, they've all been through the nutrient soak, which is fantastic. So let me show you what this bit of hardware cloth is going to do for us. Now initially, I used this hardware cloth to try to protect our garlic from critters, but as I unwrap it here, actually I'm going to turn it over so that the curl is happening down. This will actually fit inside these beds. I made this piece to fit inside. It kind of overlays it a little bit, but I'm going to keep it just like so. And I think you can actually see it pretty clearly from this angle. You've got all these holes in here, and those holes are 6 inches apart, and that's the spacing I need for my garlic. And so what I'm going to do, I could get this to fit the whole way down in there, but I'm not going to leave it on there because I'm going to use it as my template. And I'm going to take one of these bamboo sticks that I have and just poke the holes every 6 inches. Just go straight down like that. And that means I'll know where to plant my garlic. Should help me out quite a bit. Let's see how it looks once I've uncovered it. There you can see the holes. And that's where my garlic, or at least one variety, is going to be going. All right, now both of these beds are ready for planting, ready for the garlic. I'm going to go ahead and put chestnut red, since that was the first one that we did, in here. Well, my chestnut red is actually still dripping. You can probably see it here dripping a little bit from that fertilizer soak. I just put everything back in the bag, and we're going to get this planted, and then I'll show you the other beds as well. There is so much really good seed garlic going in right now. Root side down, pointy side up, and I'm going to get these down a couple inches below, so we'll leave at least an inch or so of soil on top. And again, I'm going to be selective. I'm planting the bigger cloves first. Get it right down in there. Yeah, oh man, imagine the plant that this is going to produce. All right, I'll be back with you when I'm done planting this variety. All right, I got 49 cloves of that chestnut red planted, with about a half a dozen left over, half a dozen of the smaller ones still in the bag. You can see them right here. And I'm just gonna run my hands over the top here. Again, just gonna smooth over the surface, just like so. And I'm gonna show you this because I want you to see it, but I'm gonna go ahead and put my hay, my mulch over top of this bed. I want you to see a final product that's going to be ready. Look at that. And the soil actually is already kind of damp because we've had some rain the last couple of days. But I'm going to go ahead and put some hay on here so you can see what it's going to look like. Now, hay or straw or whatever organic matter you want, crushed up leaves. I'm actually going to be using grass clippings. I held off on mowing the last couple weeks just so I could be ready to put down additional mulch at the time of planting. But my goal here is about 6 inches or so of covering, just to keep everything nice and preserved and safe over the cold zone 5 winter that we're going to have here. And you can see this is just some spoiled hay, some very spoiled hay. It's been sitting out all year, actually in our compost, waiting for this moment. Again, I'm making sure it's not matted down. I'm keeping it nice and loose. And again, about 6 inches. I can tell already I'm gonna need to go get some more hay. Well, I said I would show you a bed fully ready, but again, I gotta add another inch or so of mulch into here. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this bed planted. And we're gonna start off by planting our Russian red in this second bed. We'll see if there are, these are a little bit bigger, so we'll see if there are enough of our cloves to give it the full bed, or if we need to add a second variety. That's not a problem, we got plenty. We ended up getting 31 cloves. There's the last one right there. There's 2 left in that row, but 31 cloves. So I'm gonna follow it up with our still wet Italian red. It's a porcelain hardneck. So there were 16 of the Italian red, which leaves me with 2 slots, and I don't want to leave anything empty. So I'm going to grab a couple of the musics that are soaking in here. So I'm going to finish this bed off with some sweet music. All right, there's a second bed of garlic fully planted. Now we're going to take the rest of that music and we're going to plant it in our first long bed here. All right, I got 29 of the music bulbs planted here, and I've still got plenty of room down here for at least some of our Korean red, which are a smaller clove just in general. That means we have a whole bunch of these. And so what we'll do is this will probably spill over into our other long bed, because we need to plant this and we need to plant our rocambole. So I ended up with 8 additional rows of that Korean red. And now I'm going to move on to the Amish rocambole, and then whatever space I have left after I've planted all this, and you see again these are smaller, I'm going to plant the chestnut red from some of what we harvested last season. And so we have 7, or about 21 of the rocambole, and that gives me a few feet down here at the end to experiment with our last season's harvest. And actually what I decided to do was to plant 2 rows of chestnut red, 2 rows of Georgia fire, and then 2 rows of Russian red from last season's harvest. Well, there it is, folks. I have finished my fall planting of garlic, and I'm telling you something, I believe we're going to have a fantastic harvest. Again, don't forget to check out those videos that I talked about. I will link them in the description of this video. They are so important and so useful when it comes to growing good garlic. All right, I gotta go mow the lawn and get some of that mulch onto the rest of my bed. So I will talk to you later. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.